Welcome to our leadership series in the ABOO Facebook group. I'm Lucy McCarraher. I'm the founder of Rethink Press, founder of the Business Book Awards, and I run this group of lovely women here. And today we have with us the amazing Vicky Welsh. So Vicky is a health, wellness and fitness expert, and she's a qualified personal trainer and a national trainer for the International Nordic Walking Federation. She is also the author of a fantastic book called Let's Walk Nordic. And Vicky studied the key foundations of well-being, and she'll be sharing some of the latest science around sleep and movement and how they affect our brains and stress level, which is going to be fascinating. So welcome, Vicky. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for coming along. And I think we'll go straight into your presentation, which I can't wait for.
Thank you, Lucy. Hello, friends, and it's my pleasure to be speaking today on a subject that is central to my life, and I expect it's central to yours, and that is ourselves, myself, yourself, and not just yourself, but your best self. How can we achieve it, and how can we maintain it for more than a nanosecond? So obviously this is a big topic, and actually I want to drill down into an area where I have the greatest knowledge and expertise, which is movement and physical activity, and the enormous impact, positive impact this will have on our health and well-being. But first of all, I thought it would be nice to give an overview, because I like to start with the broad picture and then drill down a little bit more, but I think the broad picture is really important. So I'm going to show you a few slides, and I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. So this first one here, wow, well, this is possibly my idea of my ideal self. This glorious person standing on a jetty, overlooking the sea in the sunset, with seemingly without a single worry in the world. But of course, we know that this is an idealized image, because life gets on top of us and intrudes in on this idealized image of ourselves. And it does it because we have life itself. We have community and our place in community. We have the pressures of finances. We have the pressures of the environment that we live in, and also the environment that we may hand on to future generations. And we have pressures of relationships. And that's not just relationships with friends and family, but it's relationship with work. What is your relationship with work like, interestingly? And the relationship with yourself. So these are pressures that are constantly coming in at us, and they can be destabilizing, and they can definitely affect our mental and physical well-being. So my question to you is this: have you found a way to manage them and to maintain your equilibrium? Because if you don't, then you will, at some point, your body will come and say no to you. And this will present itself either in physical ailments, or in mental illness, or in both. And the reason that I can say that is because I have had personal experience of these life pressures and personal experience of my body saying no. And I kind of thought that it was going to be a useful time for me to share a little bit about my story. And I do know my life story, but actually I wrote it down just so that I wouldn't forget it. So here we go. Yes, so I'm going to begin with my first career, which was as a solicitor in a law firm in London. And I identified very much with this career, with this idea of being a city solicitor. In my head, it was obviously successful and highly regarded. But actually, I never really got to that level of seniority because I left. And I left because I had children. And I wanted to be at home and be the person to bring my children up. But the adjustment from city solicitor to person at home bringing up children was hard. And I think my self-identity got a little bit lost, my relationship with myself in this image here. And then we moved to Bristol, and I found myself with 3 very young children, a husband who was traveling abroad a lot, a new puppy, which was entirely crazy, but it's the sort of thing that happens in life. And I didn't know anyone in Bristol. All my friends and family lived in the London area, and it was tough. Especially as my children were very young and were waking up horribly early. And I do remember, I don't know whether anyone has this experience themselves, but I can remember calculating the actual hours of sleep that I was getting at night. And I worked out that on a good night, I would get 6 hours sleep. And that was never continuous, but always interrupted. And with the benefit of knowledge I have now, it's no surprise that after a couple of years of living in Bristol, my body started to rebel, and I started to get pains in my joints. Even walking was painful. And so I was at this point, I didn't know what to do. I went to the doctors, and the doctor certainly wasn't very helpful. He didn't really understand what was happening. So you see, the problem was that I was exhausted. Young children, husband away, no family nearby, a new community I was trying to integrate into, lack of sleep, and a little bit of a muddle about my self-identity. And my body said no. The pressures were too great, and I didn't understand what was going on. But at the time, I knew that it wasn't something that should be long lasting. It was something that I needed to understand. And that's what led me down the personal training route. And in turn, that led me to Nordic walking. And that is why I then started to write a book about Nordic walking. And here I am standing with you today, because I am standing, by the way, I'm not sitting. So through time, a better understanding and respect for my body and myself, and this simple activity of Nordic walking, I was able to take back control of my health and to return to full fitness, a body healthier than in fact it was before. And I really started to enjoy life again. And I've never forgotten that lesson. It was over 20 years ago, and I have never forgotten it. And interestingly, my joints know before I do how stressed I am. They start to ache before I am even aware that I am going down that road into a stressful experience. So whilst it was horrible at the time, I am grateful to my body that it gives me these messages and feedback. And one of the things, if you're going to take anything away, I would urge you to really have a relationship with your body in the sense of it talking to you. Where are your aches? Where are your pains? Do you listen to them? And what do you do about it? So I've got some fun exercises, by the way, towards the end, which might help you if you've got aches and pains in your neck or shoulders or back. So we'll get onto those in a moment. So that's a little bit about me. And I guess I'm going to go back to that original question is, have you found a way to manage these pressures in your life? And that neatly brings me on to my next slide. So here you are in the center, and actually we do have the tools at our disposal to input into our lives. And we need to balance these. One of them is sleep. You'll probably recognize this. It's a well-known system here, but we've got our nutritional health, we have our emotional health, and that's sort of stress, relaxation. We have movement, which is kind of my area of expertise. But I also wanted to mention sleep because it's forgotten, and it's something that had a big impact on increasing the stress in my life. So here we are, this is you, and these are the tools that you have in your toolkit to be able to support yourself. And we just have to maintain that balance between them all. So I'm just going to dive a little bit into the sleep slide. So it's quite a long one, this one. It's my notes. So sleep. The World Health Organization has pointed to a global sleep loss epidemic. And why is this important? This is important because sleep is responsible for our body and our brains resting. It's a time when we can recalibrate, and it's a time when our body repairs itself. And sleep doesn't just have to mean the sleep that you do during the night, but it can be micro sleeps. There's a lot of, in fact, there was some research just a couple of weeks ago on the value of micro sleep. So daytime sleeps, daytime naps, it all adds up to total sleep. But don't think you can pinch sleep day on day, week on week, month on month, and that it will not impact on your body, because it will. And I am a living example of chronic sleep loss and the effect that that had on my body. And in fact, one of the authors that I mentioned here at the bottom, I'll just mention them now, Matthew Walker, he is a neuroscientist, the professor of neuroscience at the University of California in Berkeley. And he's written this really interesting book, Why We Sleep. It's a little bit terrifying. He says that sleep is the single most important factor on our life expectancy, because if we are deprived of sleep, then that equals early death, period. He's American, so he can say that. And the other person here is a very interesting man. He's called Gabor Mate, and he is a psychoneurologist, and he has written many, many books, but the one that was particularly interesting for me is a book called When the Body Says No. And this is how our body is linked between our emotions, the neural pathways, our hormones, and our immune system. So I'll just go through that again. That's our emotions, our neural pathways, our hormones, and our immune system are all inextricably linked. And so it's not surprising that when we go through the menopause, for instance, we start to see that we have aches and pains, that our immune system isn't working so well, that our emotions are up and down, because and that, you know, we're just feel in a more vulnerable state, and science is coming more and more to the fore on this. And sleep, why I've put it under here, is because sleep is one of those things that can help reset and recalibrate our stress levels, and I think that we neglect it at our peril. So I'm going to share with you a video that there's this very interesting person called Dr. Weil, and he runs the Center for Integrated Medicine in America. And I listened to him speak actually when he came over to England, to Bristol in 2016. And he shared with me and with the rest of the participants there something called the relaxing breath. And if you have trouble sleeping, or if you are stressed, this is a really clever device, and I use it so much. And he says, I'm going to share this video, and he says that it helps with sleep. And literally, I always think it's never going to help with my sleep, and I do it, and then I've woken up the next morning, I thought, oh, it did help with my sleep. So if you're one of these people that struggles, that wakes up at night, here, have a go at this. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to reshare on the link. So hopefully this will work. Right. Okay, can you see that screen, Lucy?
Yeah, it's there.
Good. Okay, off we go.
At least I think it is. It's black at the moment. Oh yeah, no, there we go. Great.
The 4-7-8 breath, the relaxing breath that I teach to all patients and doctors, students, yoga breathing technique. In this, you try to keep your tongue in the yogic position, touching the tip of the tongue to the ridge of tissue just behind your upper front teeth. I try to hold tongue to a count of 4, and you hold your breath for a count of 7, and then blow air out forcefully through your mouth. Helps if you purse your lips out and you make a whoosh sound when you do that. So the exercise begins by letting all the air out through your mouth. Then you close your mouth, breathe in silently to a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 7, out through your mouth audibly to a count of 8, and you will repeat this for 4 breath cycles. Looks like this. That's it. You must do this at least twice a day. You can do it more frequently if you want, but never more than 4 breath cycles at one time, at least for the first month. After a month, if you're comfortable with it, you can increase to 8 breath cycles, and that's the absolute. It's desirable to slow the whole exercise
Lucy, can you
down
hear me?
as you
Can you
practice.
hear?
What limits you is how long you can comfortably hold your breath.
I can hear you, but I can also hear.
Yeah, I'll just stop that one moment.
Yeah.
For 4 or 6 weeks, you can begin trying to use it for things. If somebody says something that pushes your button.
There we are.
Great. Very interesting.
So yes, that was a little bit fiddly, but it's a really interesting exercise. I don't know whether, I hope you've managed to do it with him. That was the idea. I forgot to mention that. And it's something that you can take with you anywhere. Anyway, that's made a big difference for me. And the other thing, Matthew Walker talks about a lot of ideas for helping sleep. And not only is it having more light in the beginning of the day and having a sort of routine, but actually for me, it's having darkness. And I actually sleep now, not with an eye mask, because I don't like the feeling of it either side, but I just drape a dark t-shirt over my eyes if I wake up in the middle of the night. And I'm sharing that with you in case it makes a difference for you, because it's been really effective for me. So I'm just going to move on to the next slide, which is about movement. And this is an area I feel very comfortable with. So we don't talk about movement so much. We talk about exercise and physical activity. But I just wanted to place this in context, because a lot of us think, oh, I haven't got time to exercise, or when am I going to be physically active? But we are all every day, at every moment in every day, really moving. So movement is like the big picture. And I mean, I can see, you might not be able to see Lucy, but you can see me, and I am moving as I'm talking. And you're probably listening to me doing something, moving your arms, moving your feet, anything. So all of this is movement. right? And then physical activity is just a type of movement that has more purpose to it. It's often something that can raise your heart rate, but it doesn't need to be. So walking, for instance, is physical activity. If we want to take it to exercise, exercise is physical activity that you are doing deliberately because you want to or because you feel you ought to. And it will raise your heart rate, okay? So physical activity can raise your heart rate as well, but it doesn't need to. And then movement is just general body movement. And we need to be smart here, all right? Because we know we can't exercise. Exercise is so important. In fact, I'm going to come on to this next slide. I think it's the next slide. Yes, here we are. So this is to do with physical activity. This isn't to do with exercise particularly, but it is to do with if you raise your heart rate. So why I care so much about being physically active or moving the body is because of all of these benefits. And it's pretty big. So let's just take dementia. Up to a third, you can reduce your risk of dementia by up to 30% just by being physically active. Hip fractures, you can reduce those up to 68%. So hip fractures, particularly as we get older, and for women, hip fractures are something of concern because people who fall and have a hip fracture, you know, you are more, there is a bigger percentage of people who die within 2 years of having a hip fracture than who die within 2 years of a cancer diagnosis.
Wow.
And that is scary. Admittedly, I just want to caveat that most people will not be falling over and fracturing their hip until they are more or less over 65. But nevertheless, it is that significant. And then we've got depression, okay? There's a statistic that if you actually move your body and are physically active, not only will you reduce your depression, but actually let's say you do something today, you're physically active today, for the next 24 hours, you will improve your relationship in the work situation and you'll feel better within yourself. And there have been studies done on that. So you get a 24-hour benefit of feeling better about yourself and having better communications with your work colleagues. So it's no wonder it's so important. And then, of course, a big one, particularly for women, is breast cancer. And in fact, I went to a talk a few weeks ago by a breast cancer surgeon. In fact, it was a panel of women, and they were all saying that for them, the most important thing for breast cancer, besides doing breast checks, is being physically active. And then you've got colon cancer as well. That's a big one. That's a big impact on physical activity. And unsurprisingly, diabetes is relevant. And then we've got cardiovascular disease, a big impact on that, and therefore a big impact on all-cause mortality. So I guess, friends, it is, you know, a message here. We need to be physically active. And it's not just in tiny little bouts. The next slide I'm going to show you is I really like this one because there's this excellent American biomechanist called Katie Bowman, and she has developed the SLOTH acronym. And she said that we can divide our day into something that equates to the name sloth. And that is sleep, leisure, occupation, so that's our work or what we're doing, you know, on a general basis, travel, and what we do at home, okay? And she says that if we take each one of these 5 aspects and just try to nudge a little bit more positively our physical activity or our movement in each of these, then, hey presto, we've built more activity into our lives. So take the sleep. Well, you may not think that you can do anything whilst you sleep, but I tell you something, when I wake up, I don't know whether anybody does this, but when I wake up, I actually do stretches in bed before I get out of bed. So I consider those to be part of sleep. I just stretch a bit like a cat, really, and just try and do an extension, stretch my arm up and my opposite leg down and do a sort of a diagonal stretch, and it feels great. And I do some ankle circles and wrist circles. So you can do something whilst you're sleeping. Leisure obviously is a fantastic opportunity, and that's probably where most of us actually do most of our physical activity and exercise, but we don't need to. We can do something whilst we're at work, and I'm going to come on to a few desk exercises. I've got 5 categories and some really simple exercises to do within those, and those can make a fantastic difference. So it's not all about, you know, raising your heart rate, it's about moving your body, and we have a choice in that. Travel, well, again, that's obvious. It's walking, cycling. How do you get to, to work? Is there anything you can do to adjust the dial in your movement and physical activity and exercise at home, at travel, and also at home? Switch the music on whilst you're cooking, dance to, in my case, ABBA, maybe with my daughter. Just that sort of thing, it's a feel-good mood. And there's a huge amount of evidence, of course, that it's a de-stressor, hence the statistics on depression. So I wanted to mention those, and I also wanted to talk about a few, just briefly, a couple of things, and that is that in all our movement, what we should try to be doing is keeping our posture as correct as possible, as in alignment as possible, because if you, and I can see Lucy dropping her head down, writing some notes. So that's why I'm standing today, because I find it easier to have good posture when I'm standing. And so if you are at your desk at the moment and you don't have a standing desk opportunity, I would highly recommend that you do, because posture, as we get older, and I have trained hundreds, well, over 1,000 people to Nordic walk, and posture is the thing that is key in life, in being able to enjoy life for as long as possible. Posture is the main thing. So I have a fantastic little another acronym for posture, and it's SHREK. And I'm just looking at the time. I probably don't have time to go through. Oh, I will quickly go through it. So it's shoulders, first of all, rolling your shoulders back. Your head, it needs to be lifted up away from your shoulders, so you have a big gap between your ears and your shoulders. Your ribs, lift your ribs up out of your hips, because the gap between your hip bone and your rib cage is the most important gap in your body. And we close it down, and we close all our organs, we close our breathing down, and we slump and we come into a forward position. So lift your ribs up. Your ears, I'm going to do a chin slide exercise, but I'm going to turn sideways. So your ears should be sitting over your shoulders. Most people have a forward head position, which will be that. So their ears are in front of their shoulders. So we need to slide the ears back. I have an exercise for you to do that. And K is core, and that is just, if you have a sore lower back, then just think about engaging that little triangle just below your belly button, just pulling it in gently, and it'll take the pressure off your lower back, and you'll be able to walk more freely with more enjoyment. So that's my little posture trick. And in fact, I've got here a link to my webpage, which has me talking about the SHREK posture, and it also has me talking about a walking action, because that's another thing that we can do, tiny, tiny little things. So briefly, walking. How do you walk? Do you walk with your hands in your pockets, or holding your phone, or holding shopping? Because your arm swing is one of the most important parts of your walking action. Not only is it important for your immune function, because you've got lots of lymph nodes under your armpit. So if you do not swing your arm, you are not, the lymph system is dependent on your body's movement in order for the lymphatics drainage to work correctly, okay, and actively. So swinging your arms is one of the single most effective things you can do to support your lymph system. So swing your arms when you're walking. It also stabilizes your head, and it also will speed you up, and it has an important rotational movement for your body as well. So swinging your arms is probably one of the most important things. Using your feet properly is another one. So with Nordic walking, I always say that no Nordic walker under my watch will ever be a person who trips in later life, because we're always talking about lifting the toe up and rolling the foot forward. So the feet keep active, and your shin muscle stays strong. And that's why Nordic walking here, I just wanted to give a little shout out for Nordic walking. You may not have heard of it, but it is a whole body fitness activity that uses 2 lightweight poles and a special technique that's based on your precise walking pattern to make your walking more effective and to turn it into a whole body activity. It's something that I do here in Bristol, and it has made a big impact on my life and of the lives of many people that I have trained. It will strengthen your upper body. So whereas walking will use 45% of your muscles, it would be your lower body, Nordic walking uses 90% of your muscles if you do it right. And it really tones your arms, it tones your back, it helps with your posture, and it's fun, and it's outdoors. But I'm not here really actually to sell Nordic walking. If you're interested, contact me, because it's something I am passionate about. What I want to do now is to help you with a few exercises at your desk. Hopefully this is the next slide. Yes. Okay. 1-minute desk exercises. And I've split it into 5 sections. So that's 5 minutes in total. And I realise I've just gone over the 30 minutes, Lucy, but I think what I'm going to do is just go through these exercises, if you like. I was going to record them, and then I just thought, no, let's do them together. So, head exercise. Well, I've got chin slides. I did those. I'm going to go sideways. Chin slide is one of the most important exercises you can do. It's literally sliding your chin back as though you're sliding a chest of drawers in a chest of drawers. Back and forward, and it brings your ear back towards your shoulder. So you can do that sitting at your desk. And you should also feel it lifting the top of your head up. Very nice, Lucy. I can see Lucy in my screen here. Yes. So you're doing it right when you get a double chin. Okay. And the more your head is in a forward position, the more you need to pull it back and get that double chin position. So my yes, no's, and maybes, well, this will tell you whether or not you have a tight neck, and it will keep everything loose. So obviously, yes is just going up and down. We'll just do a few of these, by the way, because we're running out of time. But how does your neck feel? I did this with my 20-year-old daughter earlier on today, and she said, oh my gosh, she said, my neck is so tight. So that's yes. Obviously, no is turning your head side to side. Keep those shoulders wide. Yeah. How does that feel? Feel that stretch down the side of your neck. And the maybe is trying to get your ear to your shoulder. So one side, and it should stretch the opposite side of your neck. That's it. And the other. And you can increase that stretch, by the way, if you're sitting down, by holding on to the chair that you're sitting on, and you'll feel an increased pull. So this stretch actually is in my book, and the chin slides. Yeah. So question for Lucy, how did that feel?
I can definitely feel the stretching everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. And you see, you can do it just sitting down. If you think about my Shrek posture first and then do it, it's even better. Okay. So now we're on to the back. So this is a really valuable exercise. This is so important. And it's this twist movement, because we As children, we'll do a lot of twisting, but as we get to adult age, we do less and less. And actually, this rotational movement is one of the most important things for our back health. And it's something that we encourage in Nordic walking because it's a natural part of walking, which most of us have forgotten. And that's another reason why Nordic walking is so good. But the twist is when you're standing, I think you kind of have to stand for this one, but you twist and at the same time, try to touch your hand behind the back of your knee. So you're doing, that's right, you have to sort of pull your tummy in a little bit so you don't arch too much. So that's the twist exercise. It's really, really good if you've been sat still. If you're going to do one thing, probably the twist would be a good one to do. The W's, well, this is where you have your hands, and you see, I think you can see my hands here. So your hands are up kind of by your head, and you're wanting then to close, bring your hands down and close your elbows behind you. So you're squeezing your shoulder blades together. So you come up, float up, squeeze down, float up and squeeze down. So you should be able to feel a hot spot developing between your shoulder blades. And that counteracts this forward position that we have. See, so they're so simple. You can keep this, you can print this off and keep this little list somewhere beside your computer. And then for those that want a little bit more, you've got the desk push-up. I can't really demonstrate that there because you can't see my desk, but you can just imagine what that is. And that's just a little push-up using your desk, or you can just do it anyway. You can use the tabletop or in the kitchen whilst the kettle's boiling. Arms, circles. Oh, well, look, as you're chatting on your Zoom call, can you see, I'm going to just move, you see my arms going in one direction and then going in the other. Okay, well, a challenge for yourself is how long can you keep those arms circling? They will soon get quite tired. And arm extension is literally just extending your arm behind you so that you have a straight arm. And again, it's amazing. You'll work your tricep, you know, the bingo wing area, just by doing that. And you don't even have to be standing to do that. So these are just little quick things you can do. And chair dips, that's like a tricep dip. So that's a little bit more advanced, but it's very worthwhile. And then we're going on to the legs, nearly there. The legs, toe taps. So this is obviously, this has to be in a standing position, but if you're not standing, you can always do ankle circles instead, or you can do like a toe tap, like if someone's tapping their toes to the beat of music, like, you know, old people sitting around a circle, listening to music, tapping their feet. But the toe taps that I'm talking about is where you're standing and you're pointing your toe behind you. So like a ballerina would, and then you're your toe tack down. It's a small action. And what that does is it fires up your glutes, your buttocks, the big muscles in your buttocks, and it will tone your bottom. So this toe taps counteracts sitting. Squats, I had to put that in because this is the exercise for life. If there's one exercise, almost all the experts agree that if there's one exercise you do for life, it's the squat, because without having strong legs, the squat works all the leg muscles, and it's very, very effective. So you can do kind of like a pretend sit. You could sort of go down to sit on your chair and then stand back up. That's the equivalent of a squat. And then my Yankee Doodle is trying to open, you know, when you've got line dancing and people are kind of turning their knees out sideways. So they're kind of lifting their leg up, going out sideways and putting it down like a Yankee Doodle. That opens your hips. So our hips get very tight and closed when we're sitting. So the Yankee Doodle exercise is for your hips. And then I just put some stretches in, a chest stretch. This is where I wonder if I can bring this down a little bit. It's where you put your hands behind your back, lower back like that, and you squeeze your elbows together. And this will stretch you across the top here. Okay, I don't know whether you can see that. And a back stretch is where you just want to kind of go slightly horizontally, really. So hold on to your desk, just move your feet back, and like doing a cat stretch. That's what a back stretch is. It's like try and get your back into a horizontal position and do a stretch. I can actually do a video of that and post them, and I'll post it on the ABOO chat page later. And the side stretch is where you're going up and reaching across, up and reaching across, and that gets all the sideline of your body. And if you want to do harder, well, stand on one leg, close your eyes. And I've given you a link here to Katie Bowman, her nutritious movement page. I can't recommend it enough. It's so good. She has got lots of clever ideas for movement and exercise whilst you're at your desk. So I'm just going to finish here, recap. So here we are, you, me, and all the pressures of life that are on us. And we actually have the opportunity to look after ourselves to a certain extent. And we need to balance this. We need to recognize it. And we have sleep, we have nutrition, we have movement, and we have the facilities of our relaxation and stress reduction. So that would be things like mindfulness and walking in nature, or just being in nature. We have these at our tools. And so I guess my final message is for all of us to look after our bodies and to look after ourselves, because we can't look after anyone else unless we look after ourselves first.
Thank you, Vicky, so much. That was fascinating and so informative. Thanks a million. I know you have to go now. There were a few questions, but if you would come back and look in the post of the recording, you might be able to answer them. But most of all, if you could do a video with all those exercises on, I'm sure that will be absolutely devoured by everybody. But so many useful just pieces of information here. Thank you so much. I know you have a hard stop and you have to go now, so I will just say thank you very much. Michaela says, would you be able to do a short video flicking through the pages of your book and post it here? So lots of possibilities there, but I know I need to let you go. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you so much, Vicky, and hopefully we'll see you and talk to you again soon. Thanks a lot, Vicky.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.
Do your exercises.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.